Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie, and today I'm going to be talking mostly about my top 8 books of 2022, but I also have some other superlatives. So I have my least favorite books of 2022, my most surprising, some other 5-star reads, and some honorary mentions before I get to my top 8. I will be speeding through those. I don't want to explain it, and mostly just because I'm so tired of 2022, I want to get into 2023. But I will have playlists of vlogs for each of the books in each of these categories. So pay attention also to the chapters and timestamps so you can skip through whatever section you want to see. Let me start with my least favorite here. I think I gave 10 2-star reviews. So let me quickly mention them before they annoy me. We have A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. This was my first read of the year, the first I think reading vlog or book that I read with my entire booktube channel. And so I think that in itself makes it even an extra bummer, but yeah, this annoyed the crap out of me. Then we have Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is one of the most disappointing reads of the year just because I love the first book in this duology so much. I have an entire rant video about this, so do not get me started. And then one that I feel like is kind of unfair to be on here because I never finished it. I DNF'd it, but I read over half of it. I gave it so many chances. It's The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. The thing I hated most about this was just the main dude. He was insufferably miserable, and it was ugh. I did get the second one. Oh, you can't see that. I got the second one because I don't know. And I never finished it just because I felt like it was going to be really similar, but I am going to be buying the third one because I think that main dude, he's going to be more fun. At least he was in these books, so let's hope. Then we have Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. And I'm laughing because I gave the first and the third one 2 stars. I thought it felt so long for this tiny little book, but I gave the second one 4 stars. So yeah. The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, I gave 2 stars. I think this is an unpopular opinion. Most people have been giving this 5 stars, and I do see how a little bit, because out of all of these 2-star ratings, this is the one I had the absolute most fun with. And I thought maybe it was because I was making fun of it so much while I was reading it, and that was fun, but I think the entire setup and the silliness of it was actually a fun read. Then I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, another one which I will be reading the next one in the series. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This was actually really disappointing because I think it could have been a lot better. It's a fantasy and a romance, and I feel like they weren't blending everything together. I don't know. It just, yeah. The It Girl by Ruth Ware. Oh my God, this felt like it took forever to read. Honestly, this book was way too long and I'm mad at it. And then we have Daphne by Josh Malerman. I was in the midst of a depressive episode while I read this, so I don't know how much is on that or on this book and me not caring about it at all. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time talking about these because I want to move on with my life, but these are my least favorite books of 2022. Again, I'll be putting vlogs if I have them for each of the videos in a playlist down below. Next, we have the most surprising books of 2022, and I actually have a lot here, so again, I'm going to be brief. There will be a playlist down below. First, I have a Not So Meet Cute. It's so funny in the vlog I have of this. I read 3 different romances, and this one I was looking forward to the least because I'm judgy. And I hate this cover. I hate it. I think it's just cringe. And I hated the setup of this fake dating situation, but I was so surprised how much fun I had. And that's the thing, I don't know how good this is without me being surprised. You know what I mean? Also, I'd be interested in rereading it because I think my tastes have changed completely just in this year of reading, but that's an entirely different subject, so let's move on. We have Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This is such a surprise to me because I'd read 2 other Colleen Hoover books before, Verity and It Ends With Us, and I gave them 3 stars. I wanted to finish it all in one day, but it wasn't really, I don't know, that interesting. Oh, that's probably pretty mean. So I was so surprised by the emotional attachment I had to this book. And it's so weird because this is a romance book, but I think the romance is actually so forgettable, except for that the main dude's name is Ledger, but maybe that's just because I'm in finance. Anyway, I think the mommy issues, they get me every time. So shout out to all the mommy issue bitches. Wahala by Nikki May. This is a debut novel, and that in itself is the most surprising thing because I think the characters that Nikki May wrote and built in this, I loved. I got so attached to Ronke. I want her to be in my life. And I honestly cannot wait for anything else that Nikki May writes. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Then we have A House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City #1 by Sarah J. Maas. I was expecting to be really confused and bored by this like 800-page chunker, but I was so invested. I loved the slow pacing of it. I know that's where a lot of people don't enjoy it, but for some reason, that's where I really, really got into this book. It also had a lot to say about grief, which I've learned this year is something that I really like reading about. And another surprise that is very similar to Crescent City is Magic Bites by the writing duo Alona Andrews. The first book in that series is so similar. Kate Daniels, someone very close to her, dies, and she sort of has to investigate how this murder happened, etc., in this fantasy world. And so these two books, I love them so much. You obviously get a lot more with this one because look at that. This is also the first book I annotated. Obviously, those tabs are just like sticking out a mile wide, but the experience of reading this book was just so special to me. And then I woke up, another surprising read because I only bought this because it was pink and he looked really demonically cool. The best part about this was how it was narrated. So our main character, Spence, is talking to us as if we're in the room with him, and it was so cool. I didn't really care about the sort of apocalypse stuff that was happening, although conceptually it was interesting. I mostly was just really wowed by how the story was being told. And again, this is one of those situations where my eyes were open to what I like in a book. Then we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. And this is just surprising because the only Riley Sager book I tried to read at this point was Survive the Night, which I didn't plan on DNFing in 2021. I just didn't renew it for my library when my loan ended. And I was like, you know what? I don't think that's a big loss. So I was really happily surprised with how much I enjoyed this book. And I love the twist. Then we have Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is another surprise based on the author and my experience with the author. I did read her other book, The Love Hypothesis, and I enjoyed it. I feel like that is a very memorable book that I will never forget. It was also one of the first and only books that I actually liked the second half more than the first half. The thing about this book is that it is so fucking cringy and there are so many forced proximity, uncomfortable situations. And so I was expecting the same with Love on the Brain, and it was not nearly as cringy, and I had so much fun reading this, and so that is very surprising to me. And I'm very excited now for Ali Hazelwood's other books coming in the future. And I never finished this book. I think the word milk is in it. Milking Farms, LOL. That's all I put on my sticky note. I never finished it because I did get kind of bored of it. However, I was just thinking this was going to be like monster smut, and it is. But it is surprisingly wholesome. I was not anticipating that. And then lastly, for the most surprising books of 2022, I have Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering. And I thought this was going to be, well, it is about a toxic relationship about two people in their college years and a little bit after. But I was thinking it was going to be more along the lines of Magnolia Parks or God Forbid After by Anna Todd. And it wasn't. It was really talking a lot about human behavior because the guy in this book is pretty much a sociopath, and you get to hear from his point of view. And it was so interesting going back and forth between this guy who really doesn't give a shit about anyone and then this girl who thinks she's in love and she's dealing with her own insecurities. And I was just really captured by this book. Next, we have about 7 other 5 stars that aren't in my top 5 or my honorable mentions, but I do want to mention them here because obviously I loved all of these. First, I'm going chronologically, by the way, with all of these lists. I have Ain't Burned All the Bright by Jason Reynolds and artwork by Jason Griffin. This is so heavy. I'm sorry, I just thought I'd let you know that. This is such a beautiful piece of writing, both conceptually and visually, because it is poetry, but obviously there's artwork in it. It's all pretty much like 1 or 2 sentences or something like that. 3 sentences is the whole book, but it's just told so beautifully in the way that the images also reflect it, and it has a kind of scrapbook textured look to it all. This is all about the year 2020 in the point of view of a Black man and him and his family being together. And it was just so powerful and I absolutely loved it. It's so funny because my library has like a audiobook version of this and I don't know why anyone, oh sorry, I just apologize to the book because it was that good. I kind of want to get it just to see what it's gonna be like, because you're doing yourself a disservice if you get the audiobook of this one. And then I read Heartstopper. I read the 4 volumes that are available to us right now. And the first one is definitely my favorite because it's just all about this crush that these 2 guys have on each other, and it just gets so, the squealing sort of feeling, love it. Then we have My Body by Emily Ratajkowski, and this is a book of essays all about her experiences as a woman and as a model, as like a famous person, through the lens of her body. And I thought it was so, first of all, very, very well constructed as a story of essays, but also Emily Ratajkowski is such a phenomenal writer. It was very moving. I listened to the audiobook and she gets very emotional in 1 or 2 parts of it, and it just, you gotta cry with her, and it's just a lot in the best way. I also gave 5 stars to Siren Queen by Nivelle, and it's so interesting thinking about this book. First of all, I can't stop looking at the shine of it. It's so beautiful. I very much enjoyed my time with this book. I almost don't want to reread it because I'm not sure what my rating would be a second time around, because this is originally 3 novellas, which I read in the author's note, and it really felt kind of separate. Like the first half and the first third obviously felt different than the other parts. That is something that I'm remembering more when I think about it, but that first third of this book is like 5 stars all the way. Honestly, even the second part. The third part is mostly like a emotional drama, and I wasn't as into it, but literally I don't even care because this book, I enjoyed it so much. I read it so quickly and I loved it. Then we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, my first and only T. Kingfisher this year. I have purchased a couple more, and I have I have the e-arc for T. Kingfisher's newest book that I think comes out in March, and I cannot wait to read it. This was so fun because I think I read it the first day it came out, and I hadn't seen any spoilers, and I had no idea what to expect. And so it was a pleasant surprise, but also I thought it was so well done. It was funny, but creepy. I loved our main character. I loved all the characters. It was like wholesome too. Just love it. Then of course, I, like everyone else, gave 5 stars to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. It was not a fun read just because it sucks, you know, how Jeanette was treated and all the shit that she had to deal with. But I think obviously the story is powerful and vulnerable for her to tell us all. But also I think she did a wonderful job writing this. Like when she's talking about her experiences when she's younger, it honestly feels like a younger narrator, but not in a cringy or annoying way. It just felt very genuine and it was very well done. And then The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was the most frustrated I've been reading a book, I think, all year. This is a Carrie retelling, and you are very glad when that ending comes to everyone, if you know what I mean. I'd never read Carrie, so I'm not sure how I would feel if I had, but I just thought there was so much to say in here, but also that last quarter of the book, I flew through it. So much was happening. I could not believe it. It was, I mean, I could, because I've already seen the movies Carrie, so I know what was going to happen, and that actually added to how much I enjoyed this book because I was so looking forward to it. And now I have some honorary mentions. I have 1, 2, like 3.5 books here. You'll understand that when I tell you. And it's so weird because all of these were 4.5 stars. And so I think I need to bump them up to a 5-star just because they are more memorable than some of my 5-star ratings. So let's get into it. First we have Bunny by Mona Awad, which really started my knowledge of a certain thing I like in books about This is also just so fun to read about the like pretentious academics of it all and this toxic, weird girl group. This was so much fun. And I think the reason that it's not on my top 8, and also because it initially got a 4.5 instead of a 5, is because I took so long in between starting and finishing this. And so I kind of lost my momentum in it. So definitely going to be rereading this in the future, many futures to come. This is such an unbelievable book. Then we have Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel, and this is all about our character Kaikeyi, how she grows up and all the way through her adult life. And it's just so good. And that is something I really, really, really enjoy reading about. Again, another thing I've discovered this year. I don't care how slow a book is. I want it all. I want all the information year by year of what you're up to, what you're dealing with, and I loved it. This is based on Indian mythology, and honestly, I think the parts where our author sort of went off on her own and sort of separated from the main text, I think those parts were really, really interesting and so well done and so well crafted in a fantasy sort of way. And so I am so excited for anything else that Vaishnavi Patel writes in the future, although she is like a law student currently, so I don't even know if she's looking to write some more. I'm into it if she is. And then we have not a book, but an author, and that is Mr. Paul Tremblay. I read The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay, gave it a 4.5. And then this month I read The Cabin at the End of the World because his new movie is coming out that's based on this book. And oh my god, first of all, these are so different and I was not expecting it because this is a slow, almost Kaikeyi-ish vibe where you get this story. It's like a memoir. Not actually a memoir, but the way it's being told is this man's life through adolescence, sort of teenage years to when he's an old, scruffy, crusty man. That part of it I really, really liked. This is very different in tone because it happens all in the spans of a couple days and it's very, very, very gory, whereas this is giving us a slight taste of creepy shit. But the way that this man has made me fear everyday things, like I am now scared of jackets, I'm scared of dressers, I'm scared of table lamps. Like, what the fuck? How did he do this? I definitely like The Pallbearers Club more. First of all, because of that sort of creepiness of it, where you're not really expecting it. Also, you're not really expecting it from this character, and it's almost scarier because it's happening from a character that you love, and so you feel sort of betrayed and like it's way more scary. There's a couple of truly scary scenes, in my opinion, that happen in the dark, and I think that really helps. But it's insane how it's blended in with this very slow-paced account of this man's life. But obviously the number one thing I loved about this book was the sort of mixed media element of one of the characters' little notes and corrections, and oh my god, just love that shit. The interaction of that, I ate it up. I could not have loved this more. Well, I could have because I gave it a 4.5, but again, I think I'm gonna have to bump it up to a 5. And then final honorary mention, I have Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. This has so many beautiful moments. It's funny, it's depressing as hell, it's also hopeful, and I absolutely loved it. I think this is another situation like with Bunny, where the only issue I had was that I had started it and finished it way too far apart. So definitely looking forward to rereading this, and definitely a new favorite. Okay, we are here. We are at my top 8 favorite books of 2022. I was gonna go for 10, but I was like, these 8 right here are not only my favorite of the year, but all time, probably forever books. And 8 is my all-time favorite number, which just makes this so satisfying. I had so many tics when I was younger that revolved around the number 8, and so this feels so fucking satisfying in a way that I wasn't anticipating. Okay, first, chronologically from what I read in the year, also very interesting, probably not that interesting to you, but very interesting to me, is that all of these were read in the past 6 months. And I feel like it took me about 6 months into this year to really sort of dive into what I like and what I dislike, and really finding this new sort of feeling of favorite books. That made no sense, but just go with it. And again, this is going chronologically, not in any favorite order, like based on favorites, but I think I will try to summarize my top 2 or maybe my top 1 if I can think of it on the spot. First, I have A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. And how much of a flex is it? I don't know if this is actually a flex, but it seems pretty cool that I have a 2-star and a 5-star here from Josh Malerman himself. One of my favorites of the year, one of my worst of the year. This is a story about 2 little teenagers, and they become infatuated with each other over this summer. And on their first date, they go on this canoe and they go through like this weird tunnel, and they see in this crusty lake, they look down and there's a house at the bottom of a lake. And they become so obsessed with this house, and they try to figure out ways to go down there and discover it. In their obsession, they also become obsessed with each other, but it's almost like this like throuple situation, because without one or the other, it's just not the same. There's also this sort of menacing, creeping feeling in this book that I loved, and a sort of ambiguous ending that I'm still a little bit confused by, but I think I've metaphorically figured out. I just absolutely love this. I flew through it. I think it's so cool also how the language changes from the beginning to end. Like, it's very simplistic writing in the beginning, and then towards the end it's more complicated, and the concepts are like, you're like, what the fuck is going on? I think in that way, it must be an Adam and Eve story. I don't know. That's the feeling I got literally in the first chapter. So it's not a spoiler, and it's not like an obvious thing. I think that's just my theory. But yeah, love this book. Can't wait to reread it. And then we have possibly my favorite. I've said throughout the year that this is my number one. This is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, and I did get this beautiful fucking cover. This is a story about a married couple, and one wife goes under the sea. She's in some sort of marine biology group. I don't really understand what's going on, but she goes on a mission with a few other people in a submarine, and it ends up sinking. And I didn't really understand the importance or the craziness of that until I read this book, but the submarine sinks all the way to the fucking bottom of the ocean. And it's so cool how this is told, because each chapter, or I think maybe it's parts, it goes through the different zones. It's actually explained on page 76 of our text. There are 5 main layers to the ocean, and then we get a whole explanation of which one is which. And it took me to that moment to be like, oh my God, that's the title of each part. Mary, who's up on Earth, we get her point of view from after this sinking ship experience. So from the beginning of the book, Leah, the woman who is down in the submarine, she's back up on Earth. And so we are getting that storyline, that timeline through Miri, and then Leah's point of view is as this submarine is sinking. This is a very slow book, so don't expect like craziness if you're looking for a thriller, but I have to say, it was very thrilling. Getting to Leah's chapters and finding out what exactly was happening as the ship sank, it was driving my intrigue levels like to the roof. But also, through Miri's point of view up on Earth, it's this horribly sad love story, and you get their characters' background, how they met, but also each of their like childhood lives. And oh my God, so much happens in this book, but also it was very, very slow. So I don't think everyone's gonna love this book, but it was literally made for me. Next is Out There by Kate Folk. These are short stories, and some of them are very sci-fi, some of them slightly, and some of them not sci-fi at all. These were so fucking weird, but so good. Honestly, every single story I think was 5 stars. It was that unbelievable. There are a lot of stories about human organs, but also like houses and buildings and them having like some human attributes. And then there were stories about the future, and I feel like all of the characters were messy in the best way, and you read a lot about their insecurities and how that drives their lives. And I just love this. I can't wait to reread it. I'm gonna say that for every single one of these books. Definitely my favorite short story collection that I've ever read. There were some really funny ones, there were some really haunting ones, there were some that I was just like, what the fuck? And that is like the best mix of emotions. Okay, next. This one is just a ball of fucking wholesomeness in my heart, and that's Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I was not expecting to love this book so much. This meant so much to me, and it was just so beautiful. This is the story about a young woman named, oh my God, I can't remember their names. Lillian. And when Lillian was a teenager, she went to this private school for a little bit with this woman named Madison. And now Madison has these stepchildren that burst into flame. So she asked our main character Lillian to come and help out and be their nanny. I don't always love books with kids in them, because usually they're kind of like in this book, I felt like they were really just a setting and not an actual character, but I really did love these little children. More so, I loved how our main character Lillian grew, and also how she could still be kind of not sinister. I don't know how to explain this. It was a found family moment. It was also this weird relationship between Madison and Lillian that I love reading about, that was almost sexual, but this weird obsession, but also deep friendship. And the whole thing is humorous. Obviously, this is like a bizarre situation, but also I thought it was really funny in the way that our main character Lillian, she's not technically a good person. She's sort of crass and edgy. Oh, that sounds so gross, but I don't know how to better explain it. So I love the characters in this. I loved the plot. I loved everything about it. Oh, next we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. again, was not expecting to love this as much as I did. This solidified what I learned in Bunny, which was that I love characters that are... This, though, I found another deeper layer to that sort of story, which is where you have to kind of figure out the battle between creator and creation. And wow, this is a story about some brainy ass scientist lady. I don't remember anyone's name and I feel bad. Evelyn. She has figured out how to make clones. Obviously, you can tell just by the cover that there's going to be 2 of our main character. However, before I read the synopsis or started this book, I was under the impression that our main super smart scientist lady did this of herself, but actually her crusty ass ex-husband or husband, I don't really remember, stole her fucking research and made a clone of her so that he could have a better wife. The drama was actually something I really liked in this. The relationship between the clones, or, you know, the clone and the original, and also the plot of this, which is something, again, I was not expecting, and I can't say more because it will spoil it. Yeah, this was so fucking good. Then we have Woman Eating, a novel by Claire Coda. I had this as a 5-star anticipated read, but I also thought that I might find it a little boring just from reviews I've seen of other people, but no, this is definitely one of my all-time favorites now. This little tiny book had so much shit to say, and I love it. Okay, our main character's name is Lydia. She is a vampire, okay, in our modern age. She's actually half vampire, half human, and her mother, up to this point, has really run her life. She's gotten her blood, she's sort of kept her very close. And at the point we start, Lydia has put her mother in some sort of assisted living facility, and Lydia is now on her own. She is, I'm guessing, like in her college age. She has an internship, she has to get a place to live, she has to figure out how to get blood, and it is so slow, okay? I'm not gonna lie, but it's also so creeping. Like, not creepy, it is a little creepy at times, but it just feels like this creeping sense of something coming. And I love that, first of all. And I also do love a slow story, so I think that was never going to be a problem for me. The things I liked most about this book were the discussions of being a mixture of 2 things. So part vampire, part human, part Korean, part British. I think they were in England. Oh, thank God. That was gonna be so embarrassing if they weren't. We get discussions on gender and how that plays into power dynamics, especially if you're being preyed upon by someone of greater power, or so they think. This also had so many moments of relatability just because Lydia has like 0 motivation to do much. And so that in itself made it more humorous. And this just gave me so much to think about, to dwell in. And it really is a dwelling kind of book. It's just this sort of depressing feeling, but also fun. I can't explain it. I also can't believe I didn't annotate this. But yeah, I felt so close to our main character because it's really all about her and what she's dealing with, her thoughts, her behaviors, her actions, which are the same thing. Love this. Then we have When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Niveau. This is the second in the, oh my God, I can never remember this series title. It's like the Rolling Hills, the Singing Hills cycle. So I liked the first one. I think I gave it a 4.5, but this one is next level for me. I like the concept of this series because it's about Chi, who is a cleric, and they go around and document stories, I guess for history's sake. And it's just very interesting to me because, like I said when I was talking about And Then I Woke Up, something that this book taught me is that I really love storytelling within a story. I'm telling you, this second book in the cycle is next level storytelling because there's a story of what Chi is doing in the present. So Chi and this lady are traveling somewhere. I think she's trying to learn more about like a herd of some sort of animal. Sorry, I forget. And they are chased down by 3 tigers. I almost said lions. So obviously that is some high stakes shit that was not present in the first book. But then when they have to come to a standstill and this group starts talking to the other group, the tigresses in here can change into humans, which is another thing I learned this year. I like animal versus human, especially if there's a transition between the two. They asked Chi to tell them a story about this famous tigress back in the day to see if the humans got it right. So we get a story from Chi, who is like the story bitch of the century. That in itself was fun, but the coolest part of this is that the tigresses are interrupting chi and editing the story. And so you're unaware of which one happened, but that's not even the point. It's so fun how you're getting different stories from different people, and it's just saying so much about storytelling in itself. Absolutely loved it. And then the last mega 6-star book I had for this year, 2022, was Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. Wow. Again, this was a surprise because I thought this was going to be like comedy horror, and there's a lot of humor in here, but it goes to a horror place I was not expecting. Like, wow. This is a story about a woman named Abby, and she is married, she has a mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law just hates her, okay? Abby has tried so hard because she has her own mommy issues, which you already know, that's my thing. Definitely a reason why I love this book so much. At the start of the book, Abby's mother-in-law, Laura, has herself, and throughout this book, Abby feels as if Laura is haunting them, and you're kind of not sure whether it's happening or not because her husband truly believes it, but Abby is being very logical about it and like, ooh. This is kind of a fever dream book where things just start spiraling, and I cannot explain to you what else happens in here, except that there is this weird obsession that Abby has with this cookbook, and it's kind of like one of those Betty Crocker old-fashioned 50s housewife cookbooks, and she thinks that her life and her marriage and their life together is going to be perfect if she can just cook the right things, and it's almost like a witchy book because it's like her spell book. I also loved how some of this was written because Abby is so dramatic sometimes, and she makes this sort of like play. I don't really know what this is called. I'm sorry, I'm sort of stupid. It's like a script that she writes, and sometimes it's a way to just show the dialogue of a situation that did happen, but sometimes she's daydreaming and she's like building a script of what either she wants to happen or her worst fear of happening. And so this book was just so fun to read because it was being told to us in a fun way. Abby, there's also a lot of relatable stuff in here, although maybe not relatable to everyone, and probably shouldn't be, you know, exposing myself like that. And then this ending that is like, what the fuck? Okay, I think I'm done here. I'm so ready for 2023, but honestly, after just filming all this, I really want to reread some of my favorites so bad. If I'm gonna pick my number one from that list of 8 of my all-time favorites now, I think the 2 that really stand out are Our Wives Under the Sea. This touched me like so deeply in a way I was not expecting. And again, Mother Thing. I think the surprise of how deeply this like touched me, I don't want to keep saying that, that sounds weird. The surprise of how intense this got is part of the reason I loved it so much. But these are my top 2 of the year, and I'm not going to narrow it down any further than that. I'm sorry. Okay, that is it. I really want to do a deep dive, not with you. Obviously, I'm going to do this, you know, off screen because it would be boring to anyone else. But I really want to go in and see exactly what I liked out of everything and disliked about some of these books and try to figure out if I can better predict, you know, 5 stars in the future or just like better pick books because I want more of these bad boys. I guess we will see in 2023. But have a happy new year, and I'll see you in the next video.